All right, today is the day, and we are talking Leviathan today. Now, there are a few people in the comments that are worried that I am moving on to the Leviathan and disregarding the Arete, but there is nothing further from the truth. And I mentioned to a couple of people to kind of quell their fears that I would make sure that I put an Arete video up every Thursday just so that they did not see that thing waning behind. But today we're going to break that rule because I need to get these tires out of the way. As you can see, they've just become a workbench. They're just in the way, and I can't work on it because I don't want to drip epoxy or other things onto my nice new beautiful tires. We're going to try to get them installed onto the chassis today so that we can move on with getting some final dimensions to solidify some of the design. And even though I would love to keep that smell of new tires wafting through the shop, it must be done. So let's jump in and go take a look at that.
But they are on back order, you said?
Yeah, I can call TSW to see, or we're black right now, I can call them to see how far out we're looking for, like an ETA.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Now, after Emerson had negotiated us a good deal on some tires and a little bit of a delay in the back order, we finally got our tires and wheels, 5 of them at a total of $4,400. And then it's time to clean up this chassis so we have a good home for them. And this took a bunch of different tools to get this thing cleaned up. Needle scaler to break off some of the asphalt that had been kicked up on the thing, and some of the rougher scale. And powered wire wheel was the next step to jump in and take off the worst, at least the stuff in the bigger surface areas. Always nice to have some power. But of course, like anything else, it always comes down to just some pure manual labor. But the power tools that did what they could, it's time to jump over and use the hand tools, the wire brush. Of course, that reaches into most of the nooks and crannies. Just like I said, it takes a little bit of a labor to do that. And this thing was actually pretty clean and pretty rust-free, at least it rust-through free, and just need to clean it up. The front was actually really good because, of course, it had kicked up lots of oil out of the engine and transmission over the years. But we need to actually degrease that a little bit so that our paint's going to stick. So between the degreaser and loose rust and dirt, let's get a power wash this thing off one more time, clean it up really good. We had a nice sunny day so that it actually dried out right away and we were able to move on, get our paint going. Now I'm using a rust encapsulating chassis paint that I picked up through Eastwood. This stuff goes on with a sprayer if you want to, but in this case, we've still got some of the components on there we don't want to paint, so we're just going to brush it on. It's also good to brush it on that you can just really slather that stuff on when you've got an area that you need it to do exactly what it's made for, and that's encapsulating any rust. So just brush it on heavy. Now on the inside pieces, Eastwood also had this little kit, little aerosol cans of paint, this encapsulating paint, with this long tube. It's got a little spray nozzle on the end that fans out. And as you drag that tube out, coats the inside of your frame, which is about no other way to really do that on the inside except for dipping it or trying to just blast it in there with some kind of a paint gun. Once we got our chassis cleaned up, repainted, time to put some tires on. But I'm going to jump back in and do a little more touch-up paint on some of that areas I couldn't quite reach, or I knew I'd be able to reach a little easier with the tires off. So throw some on those leaf springs, top of that axle. I'm going to grab me a wire brush as well, clean up these brakes and these lug nuts just so that we have a good threading action going on, so we don't have to like drive them on with a wrench, but turn them on easy by hand. Now these tires and wheels together weigh about 130 pounds each, so it certainly was a two-man job. Otherwise you have to kind of climb under and try to lift them up, but two of us able to turn it as we lifted it, get it lined up with those lug nuts, start mounting these things up. Now we're going to find out here as we move to the front that there is a little bit of a clearance problem. In the comments, some people thought that I should go to bigger tires, maybe like 48 inches, and you'll see that 40s that we have here are just about maxed out going on anything. Whenever you buy big tires like this to go in your truck, you have to like trim your fenders out or do all kinds of things. But in this case, we actually have an interference problem with the mount that the cab sits on. Luckily, we don't have a cab yet. That's why we're putting these tires on, so we can check all that stuff out. We have a clearance problem. That tab that sticks out and holds the cab right behind the wheels there. That tire swings, and when it rotates from lock to lock, comes across, comes right up against that mounting plate. We'll just have to trim it off, weld on a new piece to adapt it a little bit differently. That won't be too much of a problem for us, but I'll swing it here in just a moment and show you what I'm talking about. When you push it to lock position, it's really close to hitting the chassis, but the real problem here is that mount, as it would hit it when that tire is flexing. So how's that? Leviathan looking great out there with its new tires and wheels. Frame cleaned up, things looking good. We get some dimensions off that thing. We will be progressing on with it. But next week we will make sure we are back here on Arete. I've had some water jet cutting done, some parts coming so that I can connect the two subframes and be able to work on the mechanical side while I'll be able to pull the tub off and work on it independently rather than pushing the things together and taking them apart, pushing things together, taking them apart. That's just kind of one of the things that you try to do to learn not to be slowed down on little things like that. And so when that gets put together, which will be another good video coming up real soon, it will help things move along a little more quickly. Anyway, that is our video. Thanks for stopping by, and we hope you come back and see us again.